Welcome to a multiverse of imagination. As we rewrite the stories you thought you knew.
Issue 1. The Martial Law Paradox. The air in the secret underground base hung heavy with tension as Flint barked orders. Lady J released a flurry of javelins, and Roadblock's heavy machine gun thundered. The neon lights of Cobra symbols flickered ominously in the dimly lit corridors of the Cobra-controlled city of Springfield.
Push forward, Joes! We can't let Cobra get another mass device up and running.
Flint shouted out the order. Snake Eyes, silent and deadly, dispatched enemies with swift precision while Shipwreck and Beach had provided cover fire. The clash of metal echoed as their weapons met those of Cobra. Flint's mind briefly returned to just before he set out with his 5 allies. He recalled Duke's urgent voice relaying orders to thwart Deathstroke, Zartan, Baroness, and Dr. Mindbender's plans to create a new mass device. The mission's gravity weighed on the Joes as they pressed deeper into the underground complex. In the heart of the skirmish, a symphony of chaos unfolded. Explosions rocked the base, gunfire filled the air, and Flint and his squad engaged Destro's forces in fierce hand-to-hand combat. Tension surged as the fate of the world hung in the balance. Amidst the chaos, stray gunfire struck the new mass device. The machine hummed ominously, and suddenly, a blinding tear ripped through the fabric of space. The Joes felt an irresistible force pulling them in, their surroundings warping and distorting as they were involuntarily sucked into the wormhole, leaving the battle-scarred underground base behind. Flint and his team found themselves thrown to the outskirts of Springfield.
What just happened? Where are we?
Lady J asked out loud. As they made their way back into town to try and stop Cobra, they realized the town looked odd. Lady J made the observation.
This doesn't look like Springfield anymore.
Its streets, now dilapidated, resembled a war-torn third world landscape with crumbling buildings and desolation that contrasted starkly with their memories. Where before Springfield gave the air of a simple Midwestern town, it now resembled a city draped in the shadow of oppression. Amid the decay, propaganda posters adorned the buildings, portraying GI Joe as a totalitarian ruler. The 6 Joes exchanged bewildered glances. This twisted reality seemed like a nightmare. Shocked and bewildered,
Save my bones for Davy Jones. I've seen some weird stuff, but this takes the cake.
Shipwreck stated as they pressed on.
It's like we're ensnared in an alternate nightmare.
Roadblock added. Eventually, they came to encounter Shockwave, Law with his companion Orter, and Dialtone, leading a squad of close to 50 men. Though their voices were familiar, their appearances were wildly different. Shockwave, normally seen in his blue SWAT attire, now wore a purple and orange uniform, which exuded an air of malevolence. Law was now adorned in riot gear instead of his normal vest and slacks, and his faithful canine companion Order was muzzled and practically drooling from the mouth. And Dialtone sported cybernetic implants over his left side of his face and eye, with wires running to his technologically advanced backpack.
Explain yourselves. What's with the altered uniforms?
Law began to interrogate the 6 confused Joes.
Snake Eyes, why are you here? You are supposed to stay in the Asia territories.
Hold on, Law. We're just as confused, you see. One minute we're fighting Cobra, and the next a bewildering scene.
Roadblock replied, trying to let cooler heads prevail.
You expect us to believe that? Explain how Shipwreck miraculously regrew his eye and hand.
Dialtone's now cybernetic-sounding voice chimed in. Caught off guard, Shipwreck and the others attempted to fabricate answers.
Well, you see, it's a long story. Involving a magic potion and a talking parrot.
Tensions escalated and Shockwave grew suspicious.
Enough talk. We can't risk traitors in our ranks. Brandish your weapons and let's take them in.
He ordered the others to brandish their weapons and take the 6 GI Joes into custody.
We're not your enemies, Shock. Something's gone haywire. We need to figure it out.
Beachhead replied, trying desperately to avoid a confrontation. Dial Tone's robotic eye flickered, and he stated,
Orders from above, Joes. Surrender peacefully, and maybe you'll get a fair trial.
We're not surrendering to a tyrannical regime. Get ready, Joes.
Flint retorted. Desperate to avoid incarceration, the Joes clashed with their would-be captors in a dance of steel and gunfire. The air crackled with the stench of burning debris and the acrid scent of gunpowder, an unsettling symphony that underscored the chaos. Flint's rapid commands sliced through the cacophony of Lady J's javelins, each finding their mark amongst the ranks of their opponents. Roadblock's heavy machine gun roared, cutting through the air like a deadly crescendo, and Snake Eyes moved with unparalleled grace, his every strike finding its target. The street became a battleground where the line between ally and enemy blurred amid the relentless combat. Explosions tore through the air, throwing both sides into a chaotic whirlwind of violence. Dust and debris danced in the wake of each explosion, obscuring the combatants from view. Amidst this struggle, innocent civilians, mere pawns in the larger conflict, scrambled for cover. Beachhead and Shipwreck, driven by an unyielding sense of duty, leapt forward to shield the hapless bystanders from the hail of gunfire. Their heroic actions, however, left them vulnerable and outnumbered. Dial Tone, recognizing an opportunity, barked orders to his men with calculated precision. Beachhead and Shipwreck's one-time friend and ally now used this advantage to exploit the distraction caused by the civilians caught in the crossfire, and had his men close in with ruthless efficiency. In the blink of an eye, the net of circumstance tightened around Beachhead and Shipwreck, their capture a bitter consequence of the selfless actions on the battlefield. The echoes of gunfire and the cries of the wounded lingered in the air. Beachhead shouted to his friends,
Run, dagnabbit, save yourselves.
And the remaining Joes, fueled by a mix of determination and desperation, sprinted into the night, leaving behind their captured comrades. The streets of Springfield, now stained with another conflict's aftermath, stood as a somber testament to the high cost of war in this reality. The remaining 4 Joes sprinted through the outskirts of Springfield, their hearts heavy with the weight of their captured comrades. The distant sounds of the ongoing battle lingered as a constant reminder of the turmoil within the city. As they ventured just beyond the city limits, Roadblock accidentally made an unwittingly step, triggering a concealed net trap. The Joes found themselves ensnared and helpless. Suddenly, they heard an all too familiar voice.
An impressive display, Joes.
From the shadows, Cobra Commander, Destro, Baroness, and Major Blood approached the quartet. But, like the 3 Joes they dealt with in the city of Springfield, these 4 were now adorned in very different uniforms. They all wore stark white outfits with blue and gold accents, a stark difference from the blues and blacks Flint and the others were more familiar with. Cobra Commander acted very much unlike his tyrannical counterpart, and he surprisingly cut the ropes of the net trap.
Although you're not like the others I've faced.
He expressed curiosity about the Joes, and was impressed by their selfless acts of saving civilians. Flint, still wary, hinted at the possibility that he and his companions might be from a different reality altogether. Cobra Commander, acknowledging the peculiarity of the situation, offered assistance.
GI Joe's supreme ruler has become a tyrant. We need your help in bringing him to justice.
Cobra Commander admitted to observing the Joes when they were in Springfield, and he proposed an alliance against a common enemy, GI Joe. With a tone of sincerity, Cobra Commander continued.
We've received intel they've developed some threat called the VAS device, and we need your help.
He proposed a temporary alliance, suggesting that if the Joes helped stop the machine, Cobra would assist in rescuing their captured friends and finding a way back to their home reality. The unexpected alliance hung in the air, a delicate balance between enemies forced to become uneasy allies. Beachhead and Shipwreck found themselves dragged into the imposing headquarters of these Twisted Joes and thrown unceremoniously in front of the throne of the Supreme Leader.
You're not from this reality. I've dealt with others like you.
To their shock, they discovered the enigmatic leader was none other than Duke. Attempting to deceive Duke, Beachhead and Shipwreck began to spin tales, trying to convince him they were natives to this reality.
Duke, you're misinformed. We've always been here, fighting alongside you. No universe hopping, just Joes doing their duty.
Duke, however, saw through their ruse. The Supreme Leader chuckled and replied,
You two think you're the first visitors from another reality?
Beachhead and Shipwreck looked at each other in confusion.
In fact, I had 4 other visitors arrive just a few months before.
In that moment, Destro, Zartan, Baroness, and Dr. Mindbender, the 4 very same versions that the 6 Joes fought earlier that day, entered the room. Destro, with a sly grin, remarked,
Surprised to see us Joes?
To be continued.
What's up, gang? Dragonus Prime coming back at you from my dungeon, and this is my GI Joe storyline that I've been teasing you guys for the last 2 weeks. Now, I've always been a huge fan of like alternate timelines where the good guys are the bad guys and vice versa, and I realized GI Joe didn't have one. Transformers has one, DC has one, I think Marvel has one, obviously Star Trek with Mirror Mirror, but GI Joe didn't have one, and I wanted to make my own version of the GI Joe alternate swip-swapped universe, which I am dubbing, as you can tell by the cover, martial law. So this is how it is. I really had a lot of fun putting this together. It's really been developing. I've got 5 more stories planned, so be on the lookout for those coming soon. What did you guys think? Did you guys like them? What would you have done differently? What 6 Joes would you have brought in instead of the 6 that I brought in from the regular world? And I want to give a big shout out to my buddy who owns the toy shop in Indianapolis, Faraday Toys. Check out his shop if you're in Indianapolis, and just check out his shop if you're wanting to buy toys online. He's a great guy. He helped me come up with a lot of these designs. He's extremely knowledgeable in GI Joe. The dude actually has the flag. Oh, the actual flag. I've seen it. It's cool. But anyway, thanks for coming by and checking out my video, guys. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you would have done differently. Hit a like, hit the subscribe, do all this stuff. And let's get this GI Joe rolling. Now, as it is with GI Joe, now you know how this story is playing out. And knowing is half the battle. Catch y'all on the funny pages.